Welcome back to Leap to Learn the Edvantage Way.
And today we're going to focus on navigating applications.
Basically, yes, we will be focusing on the application timeline, what makes a good application, and so on. So let's start off with the application timeline.
All right, which is a very, very, very important factor to the entire process, actually, because it takes a lot longer than the average student expects it to take. There's a lot of work that actually goes into the application, everything from researching, trying to understand what the best university is or the best major is, as we mentioned, in the previous episode about different majors. And it's quite an extensive process if you really think about it.
But it's not just the major that we're looking at, it's also the country, there's the universities, cities. Yep. There is a lot that goes into the decision before your application.
Yeah.
So to start off, the application, what is the first and the foremost thing that we need to make sure students are aware of when starting their application?
In my opinion, I would say the academics. Academics are really, really important. So, for example, let's say you are going to study, let's say, medicine or dentistry or pharmacy, right?
Okay.
Obviously, with those, you need to be achieving really high scores for your science subjects, your maths, chemistry, physics, and biology.
I would maybe downsize on physics a bit, but the main three being math or mathematics or math if you're American. Okay. But yeah, there is that. There is also biology and chemistry because they are core subjects of a medical field.
Yes, exactly.
Now, of course, if you're going into engineering, it comes down to maths. Maths. Okay. As well as physics and chemistry.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to subjects such as business, it's a bit of a different ballpark because math may not be as crucial, I would say.
It's not as crucial, for the application process. I mean, you will be taking some math-related or maths-related subjects during your experience at university. However, it's not a make or break to get into a university unless you're going into accounting, for example. Then definitely maths would be very, very important. But other subjects, such as business subjects, if you're exposed to that at school, business, maybe economics as well. Languages, very important. Sometimes the arts, if you're going into marketing, graphic design, those kind of subjects. So I think, the application process actually starts very early on when students are still in high school and kind of planning and preparing. Because if you decide in year 12 that, hey, I want to go study medicine, but you haven't taken the science subjects, then, your chances are going to be very, very slim to get into university to study medicine. So it is a very long process and it's a very detailed process, but I think we'll go into that a little bit deeper at a later stage. But other than that, when students come to us for a consultation, the one important thing that we look at is their grades. And then we also look at what they are planning on studying. And then we also look at things like, what other requirements are needed by the university. So whether it's IELTS scores, you need to factor that into your entire process and make sure that you're sitting the exam early enough to get the required scores, for the university.
Yes. So let's just go through the timeline very quickly. So let's start with, somebody comes in for a consultation. Okay. We discuss whatever the major may be and so on. So the first things that would be the first part of this timeline is preparing your documents.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the first things is basically preparing your documents, having the application sent to the university, awaiting the response from the university. If there are any other conditions to be met, the university will inform you of them. followed by, once those requirements are satisfied, the next step would be to prepare for going to university.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this would take me on to the next point I want to bring up is the advantages of being an early bird, doing your applications early. What are the advantages of that?
Opportunities.
Okay.
You know, by applying early and kind of having everything. When I say everything, I mean, you know, your transcripts are probably going to be the last thing that you get. So by applying early, you've got maybe your personal statement ready. You've got your IELTS scores ready. If you know you're going for higher education, looking at CVs, references, and so on, you have all of that ready. If you're applying early, you have the chance of getting offer letters from numerous universities. You know, so you have a lot of different options that you can later then think about and kind of narrow down to the exact location you would like to study, or the exact major that you would like to study, or the university of your choice, you know. But by leaving it to the last minute, you are taking that risk of, you know, universities filling up. Or not having the required IELTS score, for example. You know, in your mind, you've got 5.5 as the requirement, but the university that you're looking for requires a 6.5. Now, if you leave that to the very, very end, what are the chances of you getting that score, you know, the first attempt? You know, the first time you sit the IELTS exam.
Of course, you know? Especially that there isn't much awareness created through schooling for these exams.
Definitely.
So, yes. And the other thing is, you mentioned earlier, is the opportunities. So if you decide to apply last minute, you are limited to your country of choice, university of choice, and so on, even majors of choice, possibly.
Definitely.
So, applying early is highly beneficial because you just have that time to think. And let's not forget, students are usually doing this in their last year of schooling, which they have the added stress of sitting their final exams.
Of course.
So in addition to the stress of figuring out what you want to do, you have the stress of exams.
Yes.
And this is going to be a long process for the students themselves.
Yeah. And also, just to add on to that as well, you're not the only one that's applying to this university for this major.
Of course.
We have to keep in mind, and this is something that I constantly remind my students, is that the entire world, you know, students from everywhere, from different backgrounds, they all have the opportunity to apply to the same university and the same major. But of course, there are limited seats. You know, the university can only take in a certain amount of students. And if a student, let's say, for example, student A has everything ready and student B comes at the very, very last minute to apply, what are their chances of getting in, you know, and meeting all of the requirements, you know, having to resit exams or having to put together a really good personal statement at the last minute, compared to the other person A, who has done all of that a year prior or 6 months prior to, you know. So the competition is fierce.
Of course, especially if you're going to a top tier university.
Yes, definitely. And then plus, you know, there's a lot of factors that are not in your hands. You know, we've had many cases where students have gone and sat, you know, the IELTS or the TOEFL exam and haven't received the score that they need. They get it overall, but the university requires certain scores in each section. And maybe for one of those sections, they haven't received that score. So that means they then need to retake the exam. Now, if you're scrambling to retake the exam during the summer period where everybody else is also taking it, what are the chances of you booking an exam early enough?
That is true.
Yeah.
That's true. Things can go out of hand very easily if you are not well prepared.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, you did mention things like personal statements, recommendation letters, and so on.
Yeah.
So I want to move on to the next point of this, is the components you have of an application itself. So starting off, the first thing obviously is the application form itself.
Yes.
Okay. Of course, all application forms have to be filled in to the best of the student's knowledge.
Yes.
If they're dealing with an agency, then that the agency has to have enough details of the student to be able to apply.
Yeah.
So let's start with the first and foremost, most important thing. Most universities look for a student's passport.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the official documentation that universities look at.
Yeah.
This is what proves who the student is.
Yeah.
This is followed up by what would be the
transcripts. Yes. Yeah. But also just going back on to, managing your time and passports, you at the end of the day, you will be applying for a visa if you're applying abroad. So you need to make sure that your passport, first of all, before application, is actually valid. This is something else that students miss out on. If their passport isn't valid or it's about to expire within a certain amount of time, you've got to factor that in as well as to when are you going to renew your passport, and at least communicating that to the university that, okay, I'm applying now with my passport that's about to expire or has expired, but I am planning on renewing it before my visa application, basically. So this is something else that it's a small thing that can usually be overlooked, but it's also very, very crucial for the application. So other than that, then you've got your transcripts, your high school transcripts, which they have to be stamped. They have to be the official ones. So in some countries or certain schooling, they may need to be translated.
Not just that, but also the universities don't look at your last year of school as the transcript. They look at usually your 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. In the case you are in the British schooling system, they look at your IGCSEs or GCSEs, as well as your AS levels and A levels as well. So there is, you have to have a record of all of this.
Yeah.
Now, the next thing that other universities require may be a personal statement.
Yes. And personal statements, they're just as important as your grades.
That is true. But before we actually talk about the importance of a personal statement for our viewers, let's just go through what is a personal statement, because there are some people that don't know what it is.
Yeah. So personal statements basically is, an A4 1 to 2 pages maximum, explaining your educational background, your experience, and also your plans for the future. So there are different types. So some universities may ask for a specific one as to why you want to study that major at that particular university. So there you would focus on, why you've chosen that university.
Of course.
Is it because of the location? Is it because of the reputation? Is it because of the educational standards at that university?
It could even be a childhood goal or dream of yours.
Exactly, right? So universities are interested in knowing why you've chosen this and why you'd be a good candidate on their program, because at the end of the day, the university also has a reputation to maintain, and a standard to maintain as well. So if you are looking for, a really good program and you have the academics for it, really explaining why you would want to be in that environment, with students of the same standard or the same caliber as well, and to reach certain goals. This is very important for your personal statement, as well as your future goals. Okay, why are you studying this? Why are you studying business management or events management or engineering or accounting management?
And I think it's most relevant when it comes especially to medicine or dentistry.
Oh, definitely. Competition is so high in those majors.
Other than it's just so high, why do you want to be a doctor? And the most traditional answer I think I've heard personally is, I want to help people, or I like medicine.
Well, as a business management major, I can also help people. And as an engineer, I can also help people. Exactly. As an accountant, I'm helping people, So helping people, yes, it's part of human nature. We want to help people. That's part of life. But
it's not a strong enough reason of why you want to.
Exactly. It's going to be something more powerful than that. Yes, a lot of people, it's a childhood dream of theirs, and it's something that they've grown up with, and it's embedded in their mind, and but there's got to be something more to it than that.
Yes.
A lot of people have asked me, why have you gone into teaching? Why did you decide to go into the educational field? The easy answer I could say is because I want to help people.
But
it's as simple as that. But for me, it goes way deeper than that because it's, I enjoy reading. And through reading, I gain a lot of knowledge. And I want to be able to share that knowledge with other people that may, lack the skill of reading, for example. They don't enjoy reading. So if I'm able to, focus on that and be able to share my information with people that I know is going to help them either in their personal life, their professional life, their futures, I want to do that. And that is one of the goals for me, is to be able to kind of show people that there's different ways of learning.
Yes.
And they can be exposed to it in different ways. And I can share the same message to 10 different students in 10 different ways. There's not one set way of educating people. And to me, that is the goal of teaching and being in the educational field, as well as the passion for it as well. Because, to me, education is for everybody.
Yes.
And I think everybody needs to be exposed to it, and everybody has the right to education.
It's a basic right of every human being.
Exactly.
Even the United Nations says every human being should get educated at some sort of level.
Yeah. And I think it's, for me, that's my drive. That's what pushes me to educate, regardless of people's background, educational level, age, anything. For me is just getting information out there,
Yes.
And sharing the knowledge that I have as well.
Of course. Now these requirements those components of an application we've spoken about are pretty much for every level of education, whether you're going for your bachelor's, your master's, or your PhD.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, taking it a step further, some things that are required by master students would be, in addition to all of this, is a recommendation letter.
Yeah.
Whether it's academic or professional.
Correct.
So usually, because they have, now we said that bachelor's programs can be competitive, especially something like medicine. Now, when we go on to masters, it becomes even more competitive.
Correct. Yeah.
Because now universities are looking for high caliber students.
Yes.
Not just any student.
Yeah.
So this has taken it to an extra level. So in addition to what we've mentioned, your passport, personal statement, certifications or transcripts. Now we need a recommendation or 2 recommendation letters for the university.
Yes.
What else would we need for a master?
So usually between between bachelor's and masters, some students will decide to go and get some work experience. So a CV is also relevant, right? So to kind of say, what experience you had and how that is going to help you transition into the next level of education, and what you're able to bring to, your master's program, and where you're going to go after that as well. So a CV, your experience, whether it's voluntary or whether it's, actual work experience, is always very, very good to have. That kind of goes hand in hand with your personal statement. So they kind of help each other and support each other there. Just to touch back on your academic and professional reference letters, I always recommend that wherever you go, whether you're doing, some kind of volunteer work or shadowing or professional work experience, is to always ask for a recommendation letter, because this shows that, it shows you as a personal, as an individual, how far you've come.
Yes.
You get professional feedback from whoever you were dealing with.
Of course.
And to have it written, I think, is always very good, and it helps boost your applications as well, and obviously for job applications in the future. But it's also good for you to kind of see how far you've come in life.
Yes.
Between different levels of education as well.
Yes.
So personal statements, CVs, recommendation letters, highly, highly recommended.
And then finally, if you are planning on doing your PhD, the one thing you need to do is a thesis proposal.
Yes, which is usually...
It's a tough one. It's a tough one. So for those interested in doing your PhD, so you would have to write a proposal of what specific subject area you're looking at within that major.
Yes.
And it's preferable that it is related to what you have done within your master's degree.
Yes. Yeah.
So this does require some prep work.
Yeah.
So again, this takes it back to what we said earlier, being an early bird and what you do, having your thesis proposal ready. Now, you may have to have more than one because you may have to customize it for different universities.
Correct.
Or you may have to customize it for different subject areas.
Yeah.
So I would say this is one very important factor for PhD candidates, is to actually look for it. Now, in addition to how or the application process of this, when it comes to your bachelor's degree or your master's degree, it's usually an application that gets filled out and sent to the university, in addition to all the documents that need to go with it. But when it comes to a PhD, it's quite different.
It's a lengthier process. Yes, because with a PhD program, usually you're assigned a supervisor who's going to guide you through that process. So trying to find the best or the most suitable supervisor is also very time consuming. You're going to be with that person for quite some time, so you need somebody that's obviously thinking on the same level as you,
of course,
who is really interested in your topic as well, and if your topic is very, very specific, it may spark interest in some supervisors, but then some supervisors may want to steer away from it because it's too specific, and it's going to take a lot of time and effort to do that research as well. And if they do not have that extensive knowledge, then, you're better off finding somebody else that has that passion, which may not be at the university that you're looking at.
Exactly. And on the flip side, some universities may just announce, these are the topics we are looking for. So they can just, a candidate may just look up a student at a university's website and decide, oh, I am interested in doing a thesis on this.
Yes.
And therefore they can start preparing their proposal for that specific subject area.
Yeah.
So crafting or really doing the application of the PhDs is quite different.
Yes.
But the concept is start early.
Start early, yeah. And this is something that I enjoy because, over the years we've met a lot of students.
Yes.
And for me, I love seeing how they progress. Whether it's me teaching them English, for example, they start at 0 and by the end of, 6 months to a year, they are at level 3, 4, or 5 or whatever it may be. And to see how far they've come is really amazing. But it's a two-way thing, right?
Yeah.
So I'm putting in the effort of teaching them, but they've also got to practice. And the same works with university applications. Students that I've had, where I'm consulting them from day one, and then it may take 6 months, it may take a year for us to go through the entire process from A to Z, which is starting off with what do you want to study, where do you want to go, to visa and accommodation, and it's a long process where we need to guide them, and the students really appreciate when they are kind of being mentored and guided throughout this entire process, because it's tough. It's not easy to go from high school to all of a sudden possibly moving country, feeling that homesick, feeling and missing your family, etc.
Of course.
And that whole experience in between is very, very crucial. And I'm really happy to say that, a lot of my students have actually gone abroad and studied, and a lot of them are now almost finished with their education.
It's amazing.
And this is one of the important things is that, every student that comes to us is taken case by case, but also at the same time, we make sure that they're comfortable throughout the process. We guide them through. I'm always telling my stories. I'm telling my students stories about what to expect when they go to the UK, cultural awareness and all of these things. So it's a journey that we kind of go through together. And in the end, if they invite us for a cup of coffee in the UK or wherever, I'm more than happy to go and see how they're doing because, we've gone through this journey. We've gone through this entire 6 months to a year together. And it's really, really
But even while they're there, you always want to know how they're doing.
Of course.
So you are there for their journey anyway.
Of course, yeah.
Now, let's just move on to our next topic here. And it's really crafting the standout application?
Yeah.
And what makes an application stand out to your university, in your opinion, do you think?
In my opinion, having everything organized. I think universities like it when, we can send or students send all of their documents at once, right? It shows then that the student is organized. Instead of sending a personal statement here and then a few months later, the passport copy, and then a few months later, the IELTS result, it's very messy, because they have their application process. And if they're just receiving bits and pieces, it shows that the student's not very well organized. So organization is very, very important. That helps, your application stand out. A really good personal statement. Really good personal statement. And any kind of, volunteer work that you're able to do, or any extra curricular activities that will actually support your application and what you're planning on studying. I think those are very, very important to me, because at the end of the day, grades are important, but if everybody can get all the same grades, then, why am I going to choose you?
What makes you stand out?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, those are some of the important points. What about in your opinion? Is there anything extra?
I would really like to touch up on that part of extracurricular activities, whether you do sports, voluntary work, the things. I remember back in school, we had Model United Nations where we all represented countries.
Yeah.
So yes, being a part of your academic environment, not just for education, but for other things, is quite important when universities look at the application, because it shows a passion. Throwing together a personal statement in 2 hours is not worth it. Because it's not well written. Therefore, I would say definitely we would need to go the extra mile and take your time preparing all of this. And yes, as you said, keep everything organized. Now, and now to close our podcast for today, I would like to give a quick advice to our viewers. And I would say one of the most important things are, please make sure if you speak to a professional, that this professional understands your case, your scenario fully. I would make sure they understand what the university processes are before doing anything, and then make sure you follow up with that professional, because they may say they're going to do something, but again, this is a profession that deals with multiple students. And I would say, be careful, make sure you focus with them, follow up when needed, ask for regular updates. And from there, if you decide to do it on your own, make sure you follow along with every step. Have a checklist ready, so you know what you've completed, what you're waiting for, and so on. And any final thoughts from you?
No, I mean, I think all students should just be prepared, and always happy to kind of go through this journey with them and make sure that everything goes well and smooth. And I'm looking forward to the next couple of episodes where we're going to dig deeper into different majors and different countries, and kind of look at the differences between all of those. So this is just still, we're kind of right on the surface, and I think it's going to get really, really exciting when we dig much, much deeper.
Think of an
couple of episodes.
You've only got like 10% above water and 90% under, which you can't see, and this is where we're going.
We haven't even touched that part yet. So just stay tuned for the next episode, and we look forward to seeing you then.
And again, have a great day, evening again, wherever you may be in the world, and we hope to see you in our next episode.